So I think there's always a lot of talk and a lot of discussion about preventative steps, which is excellent. I think the goal really should be in reducing the number of people developing heart disease, and preventive steps, in a huge way, is the goal for many people, right? At the same time, I am mindful that we do have at least 640 million people in the world currently living with heart disease, and those are just the numbers who have reported and who have been diagnosed. In Australia alone, we have an estimate of a little over 4.5 million people who live with heart disease, and I think we've mentioned before that heart disease kills women 10 times more than breast cancer does. So I think it's really important to empower and to help the people who are currently dealing with or trying to cope with a diagnosed condition with heart disease. So, Jodie-Ann, you have so many patients that you look after all the time. Can you share some important tips on what you can do to improve your quality of life and possibly mortality, even if you're living with heart disease?
Yeah, very, very good things to think about. I think it's very important for patients to feel that they do have a role to play themselves. It's not just up to the doctor. It's not just even up to the pills.
Absolutely.
There's a lot you can do to impact your health, well-being and longevity
Definitely.
with heart disease. And so on that first note, I think it's really important that you have good engagement with your health practitioners. Write yourself a list of questions if you have them so everything gets covered off. Take your medications and follow your health plan. But then there are things that you should do that will really amplify your well-being. So manage your stress. This is really important because heart is very much impacted by stress. And whatever we can do, for some people that's just some simple breathing exercises. For some people they might be more into meditation, yoga, a little walk, getting some fresh air, just being in nature. Very simple things.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I'm really glad you started with stress management. I think there was a time not too long ago, even in my lifetime, where we used to think about stress as, oh, it's just stress. We talk about stress as if it's some other category of problem that's not very important, that's secondary or tertiary amongst all the other health concerns. And we never really used to view it as a factor that was important enough to actually have a physical impact physiologically on our health. It's not just all in the head. It's not just, it's actually something that, in this case, actually affects your heart health.
Yeah, and actually immediately too, because
Wow.
when we go into a stress response, it's like we go into a fight-flight type reaction.
Right, yes.
And this, was a survival mechanism back in the day when we were cavemen and there was something that was going to eat us,
Yes.
right?
saber-toothed
But now
tiger or
your
something.
boss is not going to eat you,
Yeah.
but you
Hopefully.
react in the same kind of physiological way, and it's more chronic because the boss isn't going away anytime soon. I mean, if you're under attack, you either lived
Yeah.
or you died,
That's
and then
right.
it was over one way or the other, and there was no ongoing effects.
Whereas now stress can come from so many factors, be it your work, be it
family,
your family,
yeah.
your social, professional, and so many things. And it is a very, very busy world that we live in. So there's so many, can be traffic, right? Something as simple as that. But I'm really glad you brought stress up. So it is important to manage our stress levels, and there are steps we can take, such as breathing exercises, going for a walk. I think the core of that is understanding when it doesn't feel right and you need to take some time out, then do take that time out, because it will pay in dividends many fold in terms of your actual physical health as well.
And if it's overwhelming, reach out for help. Ask somebody to help you.
That's so important. Yeah. Call a girlfriend.
Yeah, well, or call a professional.
That's right.
Because your girlfriend will be there to support you, but you need maybe a bit more professional help to work out strategies to manage your stress.
That's a very good point. You want to have a good system of managing your stress for it to be sustainable. That's good. What about other things that we can do besides stress management?
Sleep. getting good sleep is really important.
relate to that.
So many of us just trivialise our lack of sleep and think, oh, yeah, we can just keep going. But actually, when you don't get quality sleep, it affects your hormones as well as other things going on in your body. And it upsets the normal circadian rhythms, which are just the rhythms that the body flows with.
Yep.
This all has effects on our health and our hearts. So aiming for better sleep patterns is quite important. And again, if you're really stuck with that, if you're really having trouble, then go and get professional help.
Yeah, there are all kinds of tools and, programs and, things that we can read on.
Sleep apps.
That's
all
right. I
sorts
think
of
there's
stuff.
like, the sound of the beach or something, the sea or the sound of rain or, white noise and things like that. No, that's again, something that we often trivialize, but actually has such a big impact, potential to have such a big impact on our health. So stress management, sleep, and one last thing you might recommend?
Two
more
really
things.
important
Right,
things.
Great. Yep.
Good diet and exercise.
Right. Okay.
So-
Diet. Very big deal. Yep.
Yeah. Look, the simplest thing I could say about eating well is shop the perimeter, or better yet, don't go into a supermarket. Actually go to the greengrocer and the butcher and the fish market. Because when you're in the middle rows of the supermarket aisle, you're buying processed food, which has a negative impact potentially on your health. So
Of course.
eating whole foods,
Yes.
eating what we were meant to eat rather than processed foods is really important. It's lower in saturated fats, it's lower in sugar, it's higher in dietary fibre. All these things are really good for our heart and our vascular system.
Yeah, no, I really like that tip about shopping in the peripherals of the supermarket. I think it will be so unrealistic and impractical to say avoid the supermarket because when you're living in a metropolitan area, when you're living near the city, and even if you live in the burbs and you might have access to a much bigger market, you might have to shop on your way home, and really where we have access to every day most conveniently is the supermarket. But you can manage that by deciding where you shop in the supermarket. So I think that's a really good tip. I think I'm going to do that this Sunday.
Yeah. And look, easy thing is if you have to actually stop and look at a label, then don't eat it. Unless it's like frozen peas. That's fine.
Of course, yeah. Snap frozen foods, we all know is fine.
But multi-ingredients, things you don't understand, numbers you've never seen,
things
don't
you
eat
can't
it.
pronounce, things you can't say.
Yeah.
No, that's a really good point. So a healthy diet, and of course there'll be time to talk a lot more about that. And the last one being exercise. So avoiding a sedentary lifestyle.
Yes. In fact, sitting around doing nothing is the new smoking. So it's rated as a very significant risk factor for heart disease.
Oh, but that happens to so many of us.
Oh, look, I'm sitting at a desk a lot of the time, so I really have to make the effort to be conscious to get up and walk and put in a regular exercise session. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. You don't have to belong to a gym.
That's right.
You don't have to have your whole, set up, but something as simple as walking for 20 to 30 minutes. Now, obviously, if you have heart disease, you get professional advice on what looks right for you. But as a simple measure, you can do a walk that makes you a little short of breath, but not so that you couldn't talk in sentences.
But not gasping for breath.
Yeah, you don't want to be so out of breath that it's really taxing you. That's far too hard an effort.
Okay.
And it is an effort-related exercise. If you're doing it to the level that you're feeling it, it's making you a little bit puffy. That's about right.
So, in other words, let's see if I'm getting this right. Even if you're living with heart disease, and of course, depending on how severe or acute it is, you can still exercise. But it's important to get right what type of exercise and how often and how long you should be exercising. So a general rule of thumb is that, yes, you should exert yourself because that is the nature of exercising. However, you shouldn't feel like you're suffering, like you're gasping for breath, and you're not even able to continue. It should never get to that stage.
It should not be like that.
It's probably not good for you.
Yeah, and get some professional advice. And look, there are cardiac rehab programs, exercise physiologists and your doctors that can all be resources for what type of exercise you can do. Do something you like, because if you don't like it and don't enjoy it, you're just not going to do
That's
it.
right. That's,
And you
again,
really
being
want to do it
unrealistic. Yeah.
every day if you can. At least have that as a goal, even if you don't achieve it. But I think that exercise is really important, because even if you cannot improve the actual heart disease or change it, you can improve the amount that you can enjoy physically without it being a negative thing. And the more you can do, the more you will do. The less you
That's
do,
right.
the less you'll be able to do.
That's right. And again, that's taking a very practical approach to it. And that's actually really interesting, because I think quite often, whether or not you have heart disease or you don't have heart disease, quite often we are caught up with the whole, I'm going to have, this resolution this year. I'm going to go to the gym 5 times, wake up at 5 a.m. and, run for half an hour on the treadmill, followed by another 20 minutes of strength training. And yes, you probably get to do that, I think max a month. That's never really been more than 5 days for me in my personal experience before I give up.
Yeah.
So that's not going to be helpful.
No.
Because that will actually set you back.
Yeah.
So it's really important to know what types of exercise you enjoy and you can and will do in the long term, because that's really what we mean when we talk about a sustainable program, a sustainable lifestyle that actually includes the required level of appropriate exercise.
Absolutely.
All right,
You
so
could
there we
enjoy
go. We've got the important tips from our cardiologist, Jodie-Ann, on what to do to improve your quality of life, even if you have heart disease. And we like to talk about heart disease not as a death sentence,
No.
but simply just another thing in life that you can cope with if you take
And live
action
with.
now. Thank you, Jodie-Ann.
Thanks, Amber.